論壇以下嘅兩部分嘅，我將時間交俾劉生。
多謝各位。首先咧，我哋代表大會感謝各位出席今日嘅公眾論壇。我現在咧先簡略介紹下台上嘅各位講者。台上除咗剛才蔡西明先生佢係機管局嘅代表之外咧，機管局嘅其他代表包括咧係建築工程副總監潘家宏先生 Mr. Kevin Hu。喺佢右手邊嘅咧係機管局嘅環保事務建築工程總經理李仲騰先生。另外咧，今日咧仲有5位負責第三跑道系統計劃進行各種各樣嘅環評嘅國際專家咧出席呢個論壇嘅。佢哋分別係咧 Brian Woodson 博士，佢係負責中華白海豚嘅研究；程明錦先生，佢係負責海洋生態同埋漁業嘅研究；Dr. Bill Ferry， 佢負責噪音嘅研究；蔡培生先生負責空氣質素嘅研究。同埋我最後嘅黃子維教授，佢係負責呢個健康影響評估嘅。咁咧，以下咧，我哋係請佢哋分別咧，就係講一講佢哋嗰個範疇，佢哋直至現在係做啲咩工作，有啲咩重點同佢講。首先第一位係。
Thanks very much for being here, and I have the honor and the pleasure to be in Hong Kong once again and to tell you a little bit about one of my very favorite subjects, the Chinese white dolphins, that I've been investigating since 1992, and I've been getting old with that one, so let me progress. And I'll tell you a bit about the methodology that we're using in order to study Chinese white dolphins relative to the airport authorities' work. The objectives are basically, of course, to find out how many animals there are, to find out the abundance and the density of animals inside the projected third runway and outside of it as well, and to find out what kind of behaviors they're engaged in: feeding, traveling, socializing, resting, what kind of groups, what kind of habitat use. And when it says project impacts on CWD, the Chinese white dolphin scientifically, that really means how are they using the habitat that they abound in here, that they use in the greater Hong Kong area. And of course, finally, what we need to do is to attempt to avoid, to minimize, to mitigate as possible any effects by activities, by anthropogenic activities. Our work is about 3/4 of complete now. We're right deep into the analysis phase and are progressing well with it. Let me give you the 3 methods that we're using. These are all tried and true, although some of them haven't been used that much before in Hong Kong waters. First, we look for them by vessel. Second, we look for them and describe behavior and movement patterns from shore. And finally, we listen for them because they are very soniferous. They communicate and echolocate underwater, and we can hear them during day and night. This is an old slide because this kind of work from vessels has been done since the mid-1990s. And these lines that you see here in the Hong Kong area are the lines that were drawn up a long time ago by the personnel, scientists of the Agriculture, Fisheries and Conservation Department of the Hong Kong government in order to describe the habitat use patterns, the movement patterns of Chinese white dolphins and also of finless porpoises. And that blue area that you see there is an area that is of particular interest to us, of course, here, and is an area where relatively little work has been done very close to shore. So what we're doing now by vessel is to, in detail, look at the occurrence patterns of the animals near that shore to the north and to the west of the international airport. And those lines, I won't go into detail there, but the light blue, the deep blue, the green lines are indeed our daily survey transect lines. About 75% of that work has been completed by the end of June, and 36 of those full transects have been accomplished. And again, that allows us to describe the distribution, to compare that to other work, such as the major work by the Agriculture and Fisheries Department, and to tell us about the density, abundance of those animals in that area. As well, we can get behavioral information from first sightings of those dolphins by vessel, and we also get photo identification. They are all recognizable by spots and nick patterns on their bodies. We know many of them very well, some of them from the mid-1990s. We know where they travel when they come into Hong Kong waters. And we also do some focal follows, that means very gently following behind a group of dolphins in order to describe their movement patterns and their behaviors for longer than that initial sighting. So far, 37 groups have been sighted during this 70% research time. I can tell you that the group size is approximately that of the average group size in Hong Kong waters in general. There are variations somewhat by season and by area, but group size is 3.6 to 3.8 dolphins. Those red dots there show you where the dolphins have been sighted relative to those lines that I pointed out. The photo ID and the focal follow work is proceeding well, and again, we are into the analysis phase. On land, those A, B, C, and D up at Sha Chao Island markings that you see relate to the next project, the theodolite tracking project from land, I'll talk about. And in the sea, those A1, A2, A3, A4, A5 are the underwater recording stations that we have. Here is the next project to be introduced, and that is looking for dolphins and describing behavior from land, which we've been doing with a surveyor's theodolite. That's really a fancy translator. That's a digital device that allows us to, if we know our exact position on land and we know our exact height above the water surface, allows us to get very accurate positions on dolphins, on whales, if whales were present, and on vessels as well. If we get accurate positions, we also get speeds of those things on the water. We get orientations, reorientations, travel time through a particular area. But of course, we have to see them. It has to be daytime. Those circles, the orange circle and the blue circle and the deep blue circle indicate 1 kilometer distances, and those are our reasonable distances, up to about 2.5 kilometers with very good weather conditions, that we can see the animals and track the animals. Of course, we can see and track boats, vessels further away from that. A, B, C, and D, again, are those research stations. And we're able to, by giving exact positions and therefore speeds and group sizes, we're able to describe the behavior. Are they traveling through? Are they foraging? Are they socializing? Sometimes social foraging at the same time. How are they responding to anthropogenic activities such as vessels and the like? I'd like to point out that theodolite tracking is great from shore. You're not bothering the animals by potentially, but even by being out in a small boat, you are definitely looking at them, spying on them, if you will, from a distance. But it does not give us density, abundance information. That is for the vessel-based surveys. We've got 81 land-based surveys so far. We found 72 groups. If we have a group that we track for 10 minutes or more, then we're able to get those behavioral data of speeds, of orientations, reorientations that are being analyzed as we progress right now. We know that there are dolphins quite remarkably close to the existing airport. Once the airport was finished, they moved right back in again. And for example, that green area, as seen from Station C, from the rooftop of a building at 17 meters high, is that green area shows individual tracks of dolphins, and a lot of foraging occurs there, quite close to shore, remarkably close to shore. Finally, the third part is a passive acoustic monitoring that consists of putting a hydrophone, an underwater microphone, onto a stand, lowering it down onto the seabed, and then recording. And the nice thing about that is we can record the sounds of dolphins, and they are very soniferous animals, both for echolocation they make sounds and for communication. I'll play an example for you in a moment. Anywhere from very low frequency, 20 hertz, sort of a low rumble, to 32 kilohertz, which is above our frequency of hearing. And we can do so during bad weather and during nighttime, of course. So that gives us an overall record of occurrence pattern that we then go back through. And once we pick the hydrophones up, again, every 6 weeks, by the way, we can get that very accurate description of animals moving by, within about 2 kilometers of each of those hydrophones. It depends on how loud they're making sounds, but we have shown a correlation of theodolite tracking and the sounds that 2 kilometers is approximately the maximum. Again, here are the positions of those hydrophones, day and night patterns. We can get information on vessels traveling by and the loudness of vessels traveling by as well. That's worked remarkably well in these past few years, in this past year, excuse me. Let me give you an example of the communication whistle sounds recorded here. That's within our frequency of hearing, and that's what they use in order to talk, if you will, to each other. And an example of their click train sounds that are higher in frequency, but we hear the very lowest part of that, and that they use for echolocation, as well as some type of clicks for communication. Now, my colleague Eric will talk to you about some of the mitigation measures overall from the ecology perspective. Of course, Chinese white dolphins are part of that important ecology. What we're particularly interested in is using our information, using the backlog of AFCD information in order to explore large-scale differences in what we can do, such as reduction in high-speed marine traffic, such as ferries, and excuse me, how to do that by vessel rerouting or by changes in speeds, and we're in discussions with that and advising the airport authority relative to our findings. The other possibility that I'm quite excited about is, of course, new marine parks. We know that the Shachao, Lungkuchao Park, that was established in 1995, it was very successful for dolphins. They love that area, and we hope that that kind of exploration will be successful as well. Thank you very much.